Welcome, everybody. Yay! Welcome to Xero Training with My Task LMS. We're super excited. Liz and I have both had a preview of the My Task LMS Xero Training, and we're excited to bring it to you guys today. So welcome, everyone.
We are happy that everybody's here, and there has been quite a bit of interest in Xero. So this is part of our training that Appy Hour wants to bring some Xero to training to our community. There's been a lot of people who have said we want to look at different GLs, and Xero was at the top of that list. And it's, a lot of times it's hard to get started in a new GL. And we thought that if we did this together, that will make it a whole lot easier. So we are going to also announce at the end of today, part of our Xero training that we're going to be doing today is also going to be the kickstart of our Xero training in our Slack channel. So for all of those of you who are interested, and there's been several people who have already reached out, this is part of our Xero training, and we are really excited to get started inside of my task.
We sure are. And we are I would like to welcome today Chris Hagen from My Task LMS, who's going to be helping us to explore the My Task LMS Xero training. So welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
And for those of you who do not know, Chris likes to golf.
Yeah, I know. Don and I have already talked that we're going to be golfing when scaling comes around.
Oh yeah, well that's right around Dawn's birthday, so just letting you know, she's going to be birthday golfing. And then Heather, you have a birthday too right there at scaling.
I do. I will be working really, really hard on my birthday this year. But I love it. I'm excited about it. So yes, I will be a year older when Scaling New Heights 2025 begins.
It's a good place to celebrate with all of your friends.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I actually have had many, many, many birthdays at Scaling New Heights over the years. Just
Well,
it
and
happens
I
on Father's Day
love
and
to
my
them.
birthday.
It's rough because I've got twins and their birthday is June 17th, which happens to be right around scaling this year. And then Father's Day, of course, and then my wedding anniversary. So it's like everything happens within a 5-day span.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's going to be awesome. Well, I'm
yeah,
really excited to dig into this. Liz, do we want to say thank you to our lovely sponsors?
sure. Dun, da, da, da. So during 2025, we have sponsors that have helped us to bring Appy Hour to all of you. And we've got videos, deep dives, firm spotlights with each of these sponsors. So if you are interested in learning more, I would say go check out YouTube and you can find those videos and you can really get a deep dive into how those tools work, including my task. So Chris is here from My Task LMS, and we've done a few different webinars about My Task LMS. And that is one of the things that we're excited to do today is to show you that experience for people who are interested in Xero training.
So Liz or Chris, I think Chris, you're probably the best one to explain it for those that have not heard of My Task LMS. Can you just explain what your solution is? And I mean, Liz and I fell in love with it from the first time we saw it because it's something that we feel that firms, especially larger firms, really, really will benefit a ton from.
Yeah. So we originally built this for our own firm, basically out of necessity because we were a growing firm and we were running into all sorts of training issues and having our best managers, having our owners sit with new hires for the first 3 days, trying to get all the training going, and then basically putting the person to the task and trying to get the stuff done, and you not knowing until months down the road if that actually worked or not. So, I mean, there was a lot of pain points there of having the owner or the manager sitting down and taking that time and taking it away from their own work, but also the matter of, not knowing if they're getting to that efficiency level and when they're reaching that point. So we built this training platform for both the accounting and tax side. And now to this point, it ranges across a lot of different softwares, Xero, one of them now. But from the accounting perspective, if you were to hire someone on their first 2 to 3 weeks is going through this course. And it's basically walking them through one of the specific softwares that you're wanting. So it would walk through Xero. Within it, they're doing a client for 12 months of data entry. So we've built a client with sample set of data, and we'll be able to show this in a little bit, but within it, they're going to be doing transactional entry in Xero for that 12 months of data and run into a whole bunch of real world situations to where by the end of that 2 to 3 week training, that person has experienced a full life cycle of a client. So that's kind of the general idea that we had going there. The tax side, it's a similar structure of about like a week to a week and a half going through that. And that goes through all the different types of tax returns as well as advanced tax issues from the different software perspectives.
And you also have QuickBooks training, you have the tax, the major tax platform training, you now have the Xero training, which is just got released. So, I mean, what I love about this is having, worked in firms my entire career, in small firms, large firms, KPMG, my own, just me, and then building a firm. That is the biggest pain point is, onboarding new team members is super expensive. It's super time consuming. And, we have generalized training like the QuickBooks training that Intuit offers or the Xero training that, Xero offers. But where they lack is actually taking the source documents and tying it out to the actual general ledger program. So teaching them based on, here's the inputs that you get from a client, the documents that you get from your client, and here's how you take that information and put it into the software and then validate it. And that's the big disconnect from these technology sponsored trainings, right? And that's where my Task LMS has really, really done an amazing job of pulling it all together. And I can't wait to get in. I don't want to keep talking because I want to just jump in and start showing everybody how amazing it is. So really, really cool stuff.
I
Yeah.
certainly agree. It is fun because we are going to share some of Heather and I's firsthand experience walking through my Task LMS in the Xero platform. So I loved it. And speaking of Xero, Xero listened to the Appy Hour community and responded to us saying we really wanted to provide Xero training, Xero knowledge, and they jumped in to sponsor Appy Hour at a champagne level, and that has allowed us to do a lot of extra cool things. And so part of what we're going to be doing April through July is a Xero cohort. So if you are interested in Xero training and you would like to join the Appy Hour cohort, it's a relaxed environment. We're going to be releasing resources at the beginning of each week and doing a check-in and by the end of the week. And then once a month, Heather and I are going to do a live episode where we will share with our community what we've learned and then allow all of you to come on screen and share what you've learned too. So an open platform for us all to share.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. So we'll be asking you towards the end of today if you're interested. Many of you have already expressed your interest. We have your information, so don't feel like we don't have it. And we'll be inviting you into that Slack channel over in the next week or so that we can dive right in.
And those first invites have gone out today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Liz,
Yeah, I just got mine.
Yay! So, Heather, you were talking about the Xero training in My Task LMS, and that is exactly where we're going to be focused today. So, for all of you that said, hey, we'd like to learn more about Xero, Heather and I were looking for all of the different resources that we could find to be able to teach about Xero. And My Task LMS, because of that platform of here's a new hire or a new GL that a firm wants to bring on to a firm and to teach an individual, how do you accomplish that? And one of the things that I loved about my experience going through the platform is, from a trainer point of view, it is I don't want to call it a nightmare, but it is a little bit whenever you have somebody who's new that you just onboarded and you've got to, from your busy schedule, start to dedicate time to onboarding that person. And it's difficult because there's still phone calls, there's client things that you need to do, but you still want to give a positive experience to this new hire. This takes the burden of that off. And my experience was, it was very comprehensive. And as the learner who is going through the platform, I was able to take a break if I needed to. I could go refill my drink or coffee. I could go, to lunch, come back, and I wasn't interrupting anybody else's schedule. So I liked the independence of being inside of the platform and learning at my own pace. And, there was even times whenever there's videos and it's like, I could do ×2 speed and I could really get through that video super quick if I understood some of those concepts, which means as the learner, I'm creating my own experience based on the materials that are provided to me. Chris, do you want to, I've got the Xero training pulled up here and I'll probably go ahead and get it pulled up live. But do you want to explain the Xero courses that are available to learners?
Yeah. And I could be able to share on my side too, if that works. But overall, it's right now built as one course, kind of like I talked about, where it's going to be going through 12 months of a client. That 12 months is what you see right now of that accounting 101, 201, 301, and 401 of Xero. You can imagine it's basically a quarter in each one of those sections. So they're going to go through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and each one of those sections we're trying to train a different thing. So 101, we're doing the basic build out of everything. We're trying to show them the process, like a standardized process of going through a monthly financial, and going through the processing. So January is where a lot of it is, of the build out of everything. There's a lot of video content and a lot of them doing the write up. Once they get through that first month's entry, they go through a test based on their financial data. And then from the trainer perspective, they're provided the answer keys to those tests with reasons why the answers are wrong, as well as the actual financial information, so they can be able to compare. And what it creates is that from your side, you're not having to constantly sit over that trainee. You can, at the end of the night, spend about like a 15-minute review to see where they're at, how they're doing, and come back to them with any sort of thing that they might have to go back and change. But to kind of continue, so I was saying that 101's that basic build out. 201, we're getting more technical. We add tracking categories for Xero. And Liz is on 101 for right now, so we can hop in that side too. That works.
Unmute. So I pulled up the training and you can see here's where I started this 101. And I have different options here. So as an admin or an instructor or a learner, there's different views. So right now I'm going to pick the learner view because this is where new hires would come in and they would start to see it. And then there's this play button. What's cool about the play button is it's going to take me directly into those videos. But if I wanted to go back and I wanted to see my list, so what all is being worked on, I can see each one of my sections. So whenever I was saying it's very comprehensive, I'm just going to give you an idea of when you come to Accounting 101 for Xero, this is the 101 lesson. So it's broken up into sections. So none of this feels like it's too much, but I would say our profession requires a lot of detail and a lot of knowledge. And so it makes sense that there's a lot here. The thing that I would say is it looks like there's a lot, but within, I would say about an hour, I was able to go through creating my client, setting up that client. So each one of these pieces, importing my chart of accounts, understanding how to manually create a chart of accounts, how to modify the chart of accounts. And then I was able to move through the month-end processing overview and then creating contacts in Xero. I'm going to go ahead and just click on this one because this is a really good video to just show you. You play the video and it walks you through. I'm going to make sure that these are muted, but it walks you through step by step how you're going to create that new contact. And then it explains to you the difference with the types of contacts that you're going to create. So it moves you through and comes through and says, here's a contact. You put in the information with the contact. One of the things that I learned is that in Xero, you can actually see your vendors and your customers all at once. I didn't realize that. So as somebody who's been a lifelong QuickBooks learner and user, I am accustomed to seeing my vendors in one area and my customers in another area. And so the idea of being able to see both is really nice because there's times whenever, especially I'm doing cleanup and I want to be able to see all of them at once. Do I have duplicates? Are there cases where one person has been entered as an employee and a vendor? I need to troubleshoot that. So, just in these basic steps, I was taking things away.
Yeah, and I would also just to comment on that long list that you were looking at of in that first module, a lot of those are actually documents. So they're either documents to explain what you should be doing. So there's a client onboard or kind of client checklist form that's a questionnaire. And then you have the files to actually import the lists. So it's not, we saw probably a list of like 15 items. It's not all just, videos to watch. A lot of it is the information that you're going to be importing into your sample company.
And to your point, Heather, so in the lessons, one of the things that starts off in these lessons is if you need to have a document, it will tell you need to go over to these resources here and you need to download the document. And so this is awesome because I'm able to see my chart of accounts. I'm able to see the contacts, my bank statements. So you've got all of the different resources that's going to help your team member who's coming on board to go through that section. So you're not trying to, come up with ideas whenever you've got a new hire and you're like, oh, go work on, that chart of accounts, and they have nowhere to be steered to resources. And so it's this crazy roadblock whenever you're onboarding. This actually has the files
I was
here.
going to ask if you could show that interview form because this is one of the things I love about my task.
The business client interview form.
This one right here. I agree with you. Yeah, this one was nice.
I love this because this makes it real, right? When you're training your new hire, having those work papers, and this is really what sets my task LMS apart from any other training program that I've seen, is that they have these sample work papers that are real life. These are the things that we see. And obviously this one is, specific to Howard CPAs, but we would be able to, if it was my CPA firm and I was using my task LMS, I could actually add my own, right? So we can have our own in there so that it actually does look like the work papers that we use in our firm, which is something that I think is incredible.
I liked this too because I couldn't help, Heather, but I went, okay, does my onboarding form have this information on there too? So it was a little bit of a check to say, okay, all right, are we collecting all of the right information? This is, a really good standard. Do you have sales tax? Do you have use tax? I mean, these are all pieces of information that you need whenever you're onboarding. So it's got a lot here.
Yeah, and
It really does.
we kind of went the same structure for like the actual source documents. Like we're going off of a bank statement that's there, but also check stubs and a monthly sales journal. So we were trying to basically take it as if, a mom and pop client was coming off the street and handing their documents over to us, and how we can be able to take that data and make it more digital in the entry.
Well,
Which is
and
important. Oh,
it
sorry,
usually
Liz.
does come in from all different places. Go ahead, Heather.
And I think it's important. I'm sure some of us, especially Stacey Kildell, who I know is on this call, is like, why isn't this digitized? Right? But when we think about bringing on a new hire and bringing on a new client, this is what we get, right? A lot of times they haven't digitized anything. They're not digital. They're still got a ton of paper, and we're the ones that need to transform them. So I love the fact that we're looking at these source documents, just how we're going to receive them from the clients, and having to process them, because that's how we really learn and retain it, right? So I love that it's building on that knowledge, like the fundamentals of it.
I agree. And as the learner going, so I'm gonna show my list right here. So I'm in the learner view, and from the learner view, if I wanted to know how much have I completed so far, I could come through here and I could look to see where are all my check marks at. And so that prompts you to know what's coming up next, how much is left. And then the other thing, while you're in the experience, what you do is you say, okay, complete and continue. Here's the next explanation as to what is going to be part of the learner's journey. And so now it's telling me you will need to download the Xero contact list from January. And so it's telling me where those things are located. And so each time there's a prompt for what's coming up. And then there's, okay, let's complete, let's go. So that's where I was saying, I wanted you to see, yes, this is a big list, but part of it is explaining to you what you're going to be doing next. And I like that because our world works that way. It's like we get an
Mhm.
explanation either from a client, from a team member, from our task manager, whatever it is that we're using, we get the here's what's next, and then we go do. So it felt very real world to me.
Yeah, I
And
would love.
depend
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, depending on the topic, I mean, those videos could be 2 minutes or they could be 10. So like sometimes those videos, they're just flying right by.
Mhm. And
And
especially if you put them in squirrel mode.
now, Chris, one of the things I also love about my Task LMS is that as our team members are going through this course and actually completing this, there's an admin view on the back end that's actually showing us how they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's in the administrator and instructor mode.
Yeah, you technically can be able to see it from both sides now. Um, as learners go through, you're able to see both where Liz is right now with that report section, but also in the administrator mode, you can see courses in progress and where they're completed and how far they're going. So from this administrator mode, for instance, there's the reports section on the left-hand side where you can see it either by specific user reports, so anything that that specific user is going through, or you can go by course. So like the accounting 101 you could go into there and see the reports for that section. And then there's a training matrix one at that bottom one, which actually shows you kind of a high in the sky view of where everybody is at in the firm
Oh, this
in
is the
the course
user.
overall. So, you know, if you had 10 people, it would show you all the 10 users on that left-hand side, and then it would show all the courses that are there. And it would show, you know, for this one, because it's an instructor, it
Mhm.
doesn't have the boxes for showing courses in progress or courses completed. But you can be able to see who's completed what courses and who's in the middle of a course, and it will give a percent of how far they're through that course.
This would be helpful, like if, for example, you let's just say example would be maybe you wanted to add Xero as an offering to your clients. So a new GL and you wanted to have 10 different people, like you said, go through training. You'd be able to see the progress of all 10 people and to see maybe where one user got stuck, or are there multiple users that are getting stuck in a particular place? And so that would be a great indication as to, do we need to have a group meetup just to work through maybe whatever it is that they're looking
Sure.
at? You know, one of the things that I liked about our view, and so Chris, you may have to help me walk through this, is that I can see answers too. So you invited us as an administrator, an instructor, and a learner, so that way we would have access to everything. But
Yep.
say that I did want to go and I wanted to see the answers. Is that where this little pencil is?
So if you scroll down, there's a whole entire separate section for trainers. That is the Trainer 003 Trainer Guide Zero answer key. And
Oh,
if you click on
okay.
that pencil icon,
Okay.
so that has every single section broken out with all of the important information for the trainers going through the course. It gives the financial statements, the sales tax returns, the source documents that the person's getting, the test answer keys showing what the right answers are and what it means if they got it wrong. Um, so like this, for instance, it's going to show you every single question that's in that test. Generally, the tests are, you know, 10 to 12 questions going through the course, and they range from multiple choice, true, false, and then there's some drag and drop match ones. Um, and the drag and drop ones are really kind of key for verifying that they are doing that transactional entry into the books. But it walks through so that way, when you're reviewing someone going through and taking the test, you can quickly see what they potentially got wrong and how to quickly fix it.
Well, and I love that you're telling why they got it wrong. So
Yeah.
if they're saying zero, then they haven't recorded the Snap-on tools payable to the equipment account. So now you're able to see what was their error. And even I think that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a way to see how many times that if you
Yeah.
allow them to retake, how many times it took them to get the answer correct?
Yeah, and I can show from my side if you want. That way,
Sure.
we can see some like
Yeah.
actual data there.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
And that
It
gives you,
just
oops,
sent a
I have to allow
request.
you. Here you
Yep.
go. And that gives you really a insight into their proficiency, right?
Yep. So I'm back on that administrator screen that Liz was on. I'm in one of our test scenarios in here. So if I go into like training matrix, I can see all of our people across all the different courses, and it shows checkoff marks it for anybody that's completed a section, and it will give you a percent with circle that's highlighted with the amount that it's been completed through. So this one's 93% through the one-on-one QuickBooks Online. A blue means that they aren't assigned, oh, well, sorry, they are assigned to the course, but they haven't started. And then a gray box, they wouldn't be assigned to the course. You're also able to see stuff like timelines of seeing when people completed, when people passed, when people failed. on tests. So you can see a timeline of that data. But going to what you're talking about of like the results of the test, if we go into the 101.0 reporting, I can go to the test tab for January. And I could see that this person passed with a 92.31. Click on the magnifying glass and it shows me how it happened. Now, this person passed this one on the very first attempt. Normally, if they failed, it would show an attempt up here. So actually, let me go back and find someone that would have the attempts.
I think that this is good to know whenever you've got a new hire. Are they just taking the test to pass,
Exactly.
or are they really putting some thought into it? And people take tests at different speeds.
Yep.
So there's lots of information that you can pull out of somebody taking an exam like this.
Yep. So the build out, like I said, for QuickBooks Online versus Xero, it's similar build out, but we're showing how to do it in those specific softwares. So it's the same data that they're going to be doing across the different systems. But you can see that you can select the different attempts and it will show you what they got right, what they got wrong, as well as giving you timestamps of when they took them. And going back to what Liz was saying, you're able to kind of easily see people that are just attempting to take the test without actually doing the data, because you see numerous attempts here with basically a minute to 2 minutes apart on the tests. And with you having the data housed on your side because it's within like your Xero system, you're easily able to go into Xero and see their file that they've actually done work in their system.
And I will say that I went from not having a Xero account to now I've got a Xero account with the information that I've processed so far, and it makes me feel good. I feel a little accomplished. And so because I felt like I had, hand holding, and so I felt like I was being guided. And so I didn't have to go and think about, okay, where would that live? What's the next thing I want to learn? It's like you just kind of took the what would be next out of it, and it just kept progressing. And each of those videos is pretty easy to watch. It's very simple. It's not a whole lot of confusing information. It's like, here it is, it's straightforward. And that learner can then grasp a hold of that really quickly, follow along, two screens you're doing and watching at the same time. And then you check mark the box, I've completed it, and you go the next thing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to piece it out, like you're saying, chunk by chunk to where we're creating a standardized process within the processing. And it kind of was, okay, from where do we start if we were to start a monthly financial? So we built that out and put that into different sections for them to create that process. And then as they go forward, they have certain different items pop up. Like in 201, in QuickBooks, you'd be talking about classes, but in Xero, we're talking about tracking categories. So we walk through how to add tracking categories, how to add the departments into the system, because it's an auto repair shop that adds a sales division. So we walk through how to add those into the system. We walk through how to use the find and recode in Xero. So similar to the reclassify tool from QuickBooks side, trying to mass reclassify that January through April data to the repairs department. And then one of the final steps within that side was changing the management reporting to add the department income statements. So, we're trying to cover different topics as it goes on through the course. With one of the things, the 301, that's third quarter, we're actually trying to see if they can take everything that they've done from 101 and 201 and now be efficient with it. We're teaching nothing new. We're trying to see if they can get everything done in basically like a 4-hour time frame. Kind of like if you had a brand new client coming onto your system, first few months you're learning that client, you're trying to understand the client, but then you start to get in a rhythm and you get your processes down.
I don't, this is what it reminds me of. For those here who have gone through a VOTEC type course or a business learning course for, in my case, it was QuickBooks, and I wanted to learn QuickBooks. It was desktop. It was a long time ago. And so I went to my local VOTEC, signed up for the business courses, and I did a 6 weeks course. And so twice a week we met for 2 hours, and that was the way that I learned QuickBooks. And so each time that we met, we would build on our learning. So we had our hand, our book. And so we would open up the book and it was like, okay, do the same thing, go to your chart of accounts, import your chart of accounts. And then by the end of it, you were able to go and look at your reports and gather information off of the reports. What I loved about this compared to that experience is I didn't have to wait on the other students in the room. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I loved that experience of my first QuickBooks training and it being that in-person, live experience where I was building off of information. And Anne that's in here, she and I got to go back and years later teach that course together. And so, made some really great clients and friends out of that experience. But, there's something about not having to wait for somebody who's struggling with turning on the computer.
And I think there's probably something about like not feeling rushed, right?
Yeah,
When you're learning, because everybody learns at a different rate. And when in a group live setting, it can be a bit demoralizing if you're the one that takes a little bit longer to get through the material. Whereas if you're in a self-study, session, I know people that sometimes take a little bit longer to learn it, but once they've got it, they're super fast, right? So this allows everybody to learn at their own pace.
very fair
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, it's definitely, and we try to put into the system estimated times of how long they should be taking more than likely. So that way it gives you from the trainer's perspective, a kind of time frame to expect within the different sections. So that way, if you are running into somebody that's taking really, really long time, you're able to see, okay, maybe this is someone that we need to talk to more on this, or maybe we need to be looking at a different option. But it also lets you see if people are progressing at a faster rate too through the course and showing that they have that aptitude and can get through there.
And it's like you said, there's different reasons why people might be faster than others.
Yep.
Somebody who's already proficient in Xero, they may fly through this because they understand how to do a lot of the requests quickly. Somebody like me, I'm following along and, each time that there's something new introduced, I've got my second monitor up and I'm copying, to go along to make sure that I'm keeping up with the video.
Yep.
And I can pause it if there was times whenever I, wanted to make sure that I had it correct, I could replay it. That's something that you can't have in a live course. Can you please repeat that? You can pause and you can go back. And so it was, for me, it was a very good experience. And I wish that I had had this years ago whenever I was onboarding different team members. I think that it would have been so much more successful at onboarding those team members.
It really, I mean, it's so true, Liz. And I think The amount of time, like you said, Chris, at the very beginning of the session, the amount of time that it takes for partners and managers to sit and train team members, um, typically, in my experience, by the time you're training a new team member, a lot of these firms, they're already slammed. And so taking somebody out of production to, do the training, the one-on-one training, can really, really set a firm back, especially during busy season.
Well, and I
But
mean, there's times where you just can't. I mean, we're
yeah,
a week before tax deadline. If you hire a new person during this time frame, you really don't have a lot of time to be able
mm-mm.
to sit down with them and talk about everything. And then what that causes is if you do hire them and have them sit there, then you don't know until like a week or two later when you're actually sitting with them and seeing that they're getting the processes down.
And you're right, and I think it's got to be a better experience for the new hire too, because there's
Yep.
no bottleneck of not being able to get that support that you need. Everything's right there in the system, and the instructions are so clear. So, and I love, like you said, Liz, the ability to go back and rewatch a video if you need to. And Chris, I love the fact that you have like the incremental training, but then you have them do the whole sequence over again to
Yep.
reinforce that learning.
And that was the whole reason why it was a 12-month process and not something of like doing the processing in the sandbox of the software. Um, you know, that's one of the things with some of those certifications that they have, like the certification courses through Xero, they talk about having you go into the sandbox, and that's great. You can go through the sandbox and sample out some transactional items, but you don't get a full monthly process of it, and have that understanding through there.
Definitely.
And it was more build out to basically, someone that has a lot of experience, they're probably going to fly through the course, and then you have that certification knowledge that that person has it, and they're going through with standardized procedures. Um, I mean, we've had people even from the tax side where, they have all this experience, but they do processes in a different way to where they're kind of inefficient on the time and processing. So when they go through this, they're able to go at a better processing time, um, trying to take away some of the inefficient key clicks on different things.
That's a really good point because one of the things that you're teaching them here is the step by step and which order makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. The 101, that January build out, we're really trying to kind of walk through what would make sense for a normal monthly process.
well, I have to say, I really I'm a hands-on learner. And so being able to have the opportunity to go through my task LMS and have this experience where I did feel like I was being really fed, here's the next step, here's the next piece, here's what to do next. It kept me moving forward. And I enjoyed my experience and it made comprehending Xero a whole lot easier. Um, I think that, for those who are firms that are hiring team members, Xero is just one of the different platforms that my task offers. There's pieces that are designed for the individual bookkeepers who are doing the tasks. There's courses that are designed for, the accountants who are reviewing those tasks, or tax accountants who are doing tax. So there's different pieces, different modules that are offered inside of the My Task LMS platform. I don't see hiring anybody currently, but if I were to, this is what I would use, hands down, without any question. I wish I had done it whenever I was hiring before.
Liz, would you be able to, or is it Chris or Liz sharing your screen?
Liz is
Me?
right now.
Liz, can you just show what the topics are again in accounting 101.0 and accounting 201?
Sure.
Yeah, I
So
just
I
think that would be
think if I
really,
go here and nope. Okay, hold on. Hold on.
You can go, yeah, you could just go back and do
there
it.
you go.
Yep.
Okay, so you want me to scroll out just a little bit because I do have it zoomed in.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So 101 includes the creating the new clients, the month-end processing. And so that's the new client, like setting up the company, then the month-end processing, creating your contacts, entering bills, importing bank accounts and adding transactions, entering checks in transit. So teaching them how to put in, this is after the fact, right?
Mhm.
Accounting, adding the deposits in transit, using the reconciliation report, um, showing you how to do the fixed asset. And is that fixed asset creative solutions?
Yeah, so that one is specifically Thomson Reuters, but what we do for firms that don't use that is either provide them the journal entries for that side, or if they use their own fixed asset system, they can also walk through with the trainee from that side. We tried building it out in Xero, but the problem with Xero's fixed assets is that it's book based fixed assets, and we were having all of the calculations based off of tax with Macros 5, so 5 and 7. So
Right.
it we'll probably have a separate section covering fixed assets within Xero as like an advanced knowledge sort of thing. Similar thing goes with in the lesson itself, we don't talk about rules within the bank side of things because what we're trying to get from them is that they are going in and have an understanding of the transactional entry. So we don't want to necessarily just have them type in rules for everything and then move forward. So there will be like a separate section on that and even accounts receivable later on this year.
Awesome. And then we have the, oh, slow down, Liz, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we have the journal entries, sales tax. Love EFTPS. That's fantastic. How to create and review monthly financials, January processing, and then you're going to go through basically the processing for is 101 through the first quarter.
Yep, exactly. So 101 covers that first quarter side. The only thing first quarter wise that it doesn't do is the quarterly payroll reports. That's at the start of 201. Because 201 we go through both the first and second quarter payroll returns.
So payroll return processing eight, and then you go through April. And then creating the tracking categories.
And a big thing with April too is that like they deal with financed equipment and financed vehicles. So we go through creating amortization schedules, whether it's using a software like T-Value or just creating one out of Excel. So we walk through how to create those. They'll deal with long-term debt entries. And then in June, they go through and actually deal with disposal of an asset.
Awesome. And is that the
Well,
last section, Liz, on 201?
yes. Hmm.
Can we jump into 301 and 401? I know I want to see it. I'm guessing everybody else wants to see what's
Yeah.
included as well.
And 301, like I said, we're not teaching anything new. So it's basically giving you the July processing information, taking the test, doing the same thing for August, September, and then the third quarter. And like Liz is highlighting, the estimated time on that is 4 hours. It's a lot less than the other ones because we're trying to see, can they take everything that they've done in 101 and 201 and now become efficient with
Mhm.
it.
Awesome.
And then the last one, 401, um, the 3 months of processing is kind of similar to 301, although we do have a vehicle that wrecks and they receive an insurance check. So they have to properly dispose of that. But then we go through year-end closing entries and the year-end return forms. So they'll do PUCC, 2% as health, a year-end checklist, and then they'll wrap it up with W-2s, 1099s, and the 940, 941.
Super comprehensive.
Mhm.
Love it.
I agree. I agree. And one of my favorite things is that my Xero is not empty any longer.
Wonderful.
Data here. It felt like a huge win for me.
Very cool.
So
And can
I'm
you
going
just
to
go
take
with
us
the final
back over
tip?
into slides, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just wondering if we could look at the tips and tricks though, too.
Sure. Yeah. And do you want to launch our poll? Because I think we do have a
Oh,
poll,
sure.
don't
Yeah,
we?
absolutely.
Tips and tricks. You're going to have to lead me there. So
All right.
where are we going to tips and tricks? Here, this final tips, Heather?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is the
There's the poll. Okay. Awesome.
yep. So if you select that you want to be part of the Slack Xero training, we will add you to our Slack channel. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that up for a minute. We have a couple of other questions as well. So do that one first.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to our Xero cohort. And for those of you here, I'm going to go over to our slides. For those of you who are interested, I'll share with you what that experience is going to be like. So you can kind of see a wee bit. So what we are doing inside of Slack is really, it's a place for us to drop some information weekly. It's like, here's something new to learn. So, in my task LMS, that's really a dedicated platform that's teaching you to walk through it. And for those of you who are interested, I'm sure Chris can give you more information. So Chris, if you wanted to put your email address inside of our Zoom chat, so that way anybody who wanted to have your contact information and wanted to be part of that training, you definitely could. For those of you who want to join this cohort, what we're going to be doing is sharing with you the Xero training itself. So here's a section to go and train on, to look at, to move through that training to get you towards certification. Some of you, that might be your goal. Some of you just want to understand Xero better. So we're going to weekly check in with everybody in Slack, and then monthly we're going to have a Zoom webinar where everybody can come on as a panelist and to come on screen, and we'll just talk about our Xero experience and share what we've learned, share any stumbling blocks, encourage each other. So here's the dates for our Xero live check-ins if you want to be part of those. And then Heather, is there anything else that you want to do with the poll?
So I closed that poll. I'm doing the second poll because there were 3 in here, Liz.
Oh, okay.
So I'm doing the
Oh,
second one, which is what accounting topic would you like to see more training on?
and I can tell everybody that nobody said that they want more information about audits.
That's But it looks like cash flow management is the clear winner in this one. So we have tax management and compliance tied with budget and forecasting, but cash flow management is 10. Yeah, we had a lot of people that are looking for that. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. And then we have another poll. And I think that, here we go. What features are you most excited to explore today? And we didn't really talk about Xero integrations today.
Ooh, but
Um,
we're going to get a chance to with Xero.
yeah, yeah, we are absolutely.
Yep, they're going to be coming on Appy Hour, and they're going to be doing a live episode talking about Xero apps.
Mm-hmm. And we definitely did a lot on the interactive modules with My Task LMS. So that's exciting.
I agree. That was very cool.
Cool. Lots of polls today, Liz.
Well, it helps us to know what everybody wants to see. So
I
I
know.
appreciate knowing that cash flow forecasting is what should be on the menu soon.
Yes, for sure. For sure. We'll definitely make note of that. And if you guys have anything else that you guys are, chomping at the bit to learn, had to use a horse analogy there, throw it in the chat. And we want to hear from you guys because we do this for you guys. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out that last poll. And you guys, we have over 130 episodes on our YouTube channel. We've been doing this for 8 years. Can you believe it, Liz? 8 years.
No.
We're a second grader. Happy Hour is a second grader. So crazy.
Very fun. I've had a good time. I enjoy bringing, apps, and I enjoy talking about what's out there. So, as long as it stays interesting, and AI, oh my God, that just threw a whole new bundle of stuff to explore out there.
Definitely. No, there's so much. AI is very, very cool. So what
Very
do we have
new.
coming up next over the next couple of weeks? We've got a firm spotlight for a firm that's using Client Hub, and then we're going to follow up with that with a deep dive of Client Hub on May 13th. And then Liz and I are traveling to San Diego on May 20th for the Accounting Today conference, and we're going to be doing a live episode where we're going to be interviewing some of the sponsors that will be at that show and some of the practitioners too that are going to be attending the Accounting Today conference. So that's a great show. This will be my third one. And it's a really good show to attend. So if you haven't been, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I like it that it's kind of a smaller group of people. And I would say, what do you think, Heather? Are most of the people that are there mid-sized firms, or do you think that there's a lot of, I think of Scaling New Heights as having a lot of small firms there. Of course, they're growing into that mid and large size firms, but who do you think is mostly there at Accounting Today?
I think it's a mix. I would say it's a mix across the board. I think that you definitely have more larger firms. So I think there's fewer sole practitioners there. So
Mhm.
we're definitely, the attendees that I see there have at least one, probably more like 5 team members, is kind of the feeling that I have. But it was a great, all three, this will be my third one. The last 2 that I've attended have been really great. So a lot of new technology. That was something that you and I really enjoyed last year when we were at the Accounting Today Growth Forum, was there were a lot of apps that we hadn't heard of. And that we were introduced to for the first time, and that was lovely.
I agree. And, I liked that the atmosphere is more personal. So there's a whole lot of more opportunity to go sit at the pool with somebody, to go grab a drink at the bar with somebody. So it's more of a casual, relaxed, just great kickoff to the conference season, I think.
It really is. And, there's also accountant karaoke. And what we learned last year,
Huh?
they're doing karaoke again this year, by the way, is that we have some incredibly talented accountant singers. I was blown away by the talent in that room at the karaoke last year. And if you want to see Dan Hood and and some of and friends, I'm going to say Dan Hood and friends do some really cool karaoke. That last year they did Bohemian Rhapsody, and it was amazing.
Incredible. It
It was,
was.
it was so good. I think that out there in the interwebs on social media is a video of it. You can find it.
It
Awesome.
was
So
pretty darn good.
it was
I
very
was
good.
impressed.
Well,
Of
Chris,
course, the
So
alcohol helped too.
yeah, for sure. And it's San Diego. So you have what? You have perfect weather. The chances of having perfect weather while you're there are pretty darn high. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. This was incredible. You've built an extraordinary, extraordinary solution for accounting firms. And I'm really excited for you guys and for the firms out there that are going to benefit from what you've built. Thank you.
thanks, guys.
And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Have a great rest of your week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.